I thought marine resources would be a wonderful fit, and I'm very, very glad to be here.
Welcome. Thank you. 15 years, wow. Representative Stanley, could you introduce yourself?
Hi, I have District 143, that's the Catardhan area. How I ended up on marine resources, I'll have no idea. But like Jim Thorne and I both said, we're going to make it the best darn committee in Augusta. I have a background of, I've run 2 small businesses here in the area. I've worked as a part-time police officer. Right now, my husband and I are homesteading on our little piece of heaven here in Medway, and we're both retired. So that's where I'm at. It's great to be here on this committee.
Great, thank you. Representative Hepler.
Hi, I'm Allison Hepler. I live in Woolwich and represent the towns of what I'm calling the Lower Kennebec: Phippsburg, Rouseck, Georgetown, Woolwich, Dresden, and a small part of Richmond along the Kennebec. In my other job, I teach history at the University of Maine at Farmington, and I'm on this committee, frankly, because I chose it. I represent some towns for whom maritime industries are important. I'm also involved in a project where we're building a replica of a 400-year-old ship that was originally built at the mouth of the Kennebec, and am part owner of my husband's small shipyard.
Wow, thank you. Senator Maxman.
Hi, everyone. I'm Chloe Maxman. I represent Senate District 13, which is all of Lincoln County except for Dresden, plus Washington and Windsor. So I represent coastline from Wiscasset up to Waldoboro. I'm really excited to be on this committee and dig into all of this work with you.
Thank you. And Representative Bloom.
Hi, I'm Representative Lydia Bloom. I'm from House District 3 in southern Maine, in York. I represent the coastal part of York, and my background has been, we used to work at the New England Aquarium when I was in college. Spent many, many summers growing up on Little Cranberry Island in Maine, and have had a strong environmental studies background. And also, I'm basically now in the hospitality business. I have a house in Hancock, in Billy Bob Falkingham's district, and I also have a house here in York. I love the coast of Maine. I feel like I know it really well from years, and I feel like I have having these 2 places, I feel like I'm getting a real good flavor of all the different needs along the coast. And there are different needs, but there are marine resources throughout the coast of Maine. So it's something that we can look at in a whole of Maine way.
Thank you. Representative Hutchins.
Representative Hutchins is not in the room. He went to try to find a way to get online with his equipment.
He's here. He's here.
Sure, he just needs to unmute himself. Sure.
Oh, I see.
Sure. Can you hear us? Maybe not.
I just clicked him to unmute.
Still muted. Well, let's move on. Representative Crafts.
Hi, good morning. I'm Lydia Crafts. I live in Newcastle, part of House District 90, Bremen, Bristol, Damerscott, Newcastle, Monhegan Island, Louds Island, parts of South Bristol, and parts of Noblesboro. I requested marine resources partly because I know our district has historically been represented on this committee. I've also had a lot of constituent interest and desire for representation both along aquaculture and fishing industry lines, and also tourism and preservation of our natural marine environment. So I'm excited to be here and looking forward to all of our work together.
Thank you. And Genevieve is not with us yet. Genevieve McDonald is our final committee member. I think we got everybody else. And just two more, if we could introduce our clerk is Linda LaCroix, who's busily helping us make this happen. Are you able to introduce yourself, Linda?
Yes, I'm Linda LaCroix, and of course, I'm the committee clerk for Marine Resources and for Inland Fisheries and Wildlife. And I would probably use this opportunity to talk about, keeping the horseshoe in good shape in your files and all of that. But since we are a paper-free session this year, all of your information will be emailed to you or obtainable online. Any correspondence that you have with me, please do it through either a phone call or preferably email. And I will do my best to answer any questions that you have or find information if we don't have it at this particular time, because as it's been mentioned, things are changing by the moment. So we did finally get this straightened out though. So we are live streaming and everything is good. And again, if you have any questions, please get in touch. I'm happy to be back. Happy to see you all.
Thanks, Linda. And our analyst, Lynn Caswell.
Morning, everyone. I am your analyst for this committee. I work for the Office of Policy and Legal Analysis. I think that most of you are new to me. I also cover state and local, and I don't recall other than Senator Miramont appearing, but maybe one or two of you did. But so you are all new to me as I am to you. And I do know we have 3 new members on the committee. So you have 3 people on your committee who this is their first time in the legislature. I don't know, Representative and Senator, if you want me to segue to my portion, or are we still doing introductions?
Senator?
I think that was everybody there. You can do that. I'll just point out that Tolliff Olson from the Maine Seaweed Council would just asked if he could give a brief summary of current activities. If you don't have them scheduled already, I'd like to connect you after the meeting. I will connect you 2 together to fit them in somewhere down the road.
Okay, that would be perfect, yes.
Thank you. And other than that, Jay, anything else from you?
Nope.
Okay.
All righty, so I have about 45 minutes to talk. There will be a break after I do my presentation, and then the Department of Marine Resources will be making a presentation for the rest of the morning, and you're scheduled to be adjourned by noon. At this point, usually for those of you who have been on the legislature, you know that the orientation can take 5 minutes or 2 days, depending on what committee you're on. I know Health and Human Services, I think they're taking 3 days to orient their members. You all do not need 3 days. However, I will take a little bit of time. Mike Russo is also on this call. He is the fiscal analyst. I don't know, Mike, if you want to say good morning. Mike is scheduled to present on the next meeting on Thursday, but Mike, do you want to say good morning and show your face if you're there?
No.
I'm going to assume Mike, oh, there he is.
Sorry, I was on another meeting. I'm Michael Russo. I'm the analyst from the Office of Fiscal and Program Review. I do all your fiscal notes and fun stuff with the budget. So I'll talk to you a lot more later.
Thanks, Mike. So I'm going to spend some of this presentation sharing some screens and kind of showing you where you can find stuff in this electronic world. So a little bit different than the usual presentation. But I want to start with just the basics. Who am I? What do I do for your committee? The first and most important thing is I am part of the nonpartisan staff. So the fiscal office is nonpartisan, the revisor's office is nonpartisan. That means my job is not to have an opinion on the matters that come before you. My job is to provide you with information and analysis that is nonpartisan. I don't have a dog in the fight or pony in the race, or you're the decision makers. My job is to get you as much information as you need and analysis so that you can make your decisions. I think that's very important for you to know. The other thing you need to know, I think is very important, is your conversations with me outside of public meetings are confidential. I am required under the joint rules not only to be nonpartisan, but also to keep communications confidential. So if you, for example, have an idea for an amendment and you want it drafted, you come to me, you say, I want an amendment, I want it to do this. I do not share that information with anyone outside my office unless you tell me I can. Similarly, if the committee decides to wants to see an amendment and I go back and I draft the amendment for the committee, that's confidential unless you tell me otherwise. So I think that's important for you all to know. I work for the committee, but I also work for each of you individually. Regardless of whether you're the party in, majority or the minority or an independent or any other party, if you have issues or want amendments or have questions related to the work of this committee, you can come to me and I will assist you to the best of my ability. If I don't know the answer, it's not within my job, I will work very hard to find out who you need to talk to. Just to jump back to nonpartisanship, so you all have probably heard that during the committee meetings, the public meetings, there are caucus rooms available. So in the past, if you were in person, you would take a break from a public hearing or a work session and go into the caucus rooms, the R's in one room, the D's in the other, and you discuss stuff. That's available for you all to do caucusing during public hearings as in the in-person world that we're all used to know. If you want to invite me into a caucus to answer questions, help you with things, that's still my role. We'll figure out how to do that when we get further down the road. I think that's the two main things. I'm here to help. I'm nonpartisan. What we discuss outside of the committee room is confidential. And that I work for each and every one of you and you as a group. I want to share my screen because the world is different now. You're not going to be coming, and hopefully I'll share the right screen. You're not going to be coming into the committee room and picking up paper files anymore. Everything that you see is going to be electronic. So this is the web page for the Marine Resources, Committee of Marine Resources. When we get going, you can find materials under this committee materials tab. As you see now, there's nothing there because there's going to be a delay between, for example, the meeting and when the materials actually get posted. Except for those overachiever committees, such as, can you see this is the IDEA committee?
All we see is a white stripe on the screen.
Oh, well, that's no good. A white stripe on the screen. Huh. Let's stop share. Am I back?
Yes.
Can you see? All right. Let's try that again. Did you see the Marine Resources page?
No, we saw the main Gov page with the bill search.
Okay. Let's see if this one appears. Does it now say Innovation, Development, Economic?
Yes.
Okay. So I call this the Overachiever Committee. They have two clerks or two analysts. They're a bit more advanced than me. On their page, they've already downloaded the material. You can see the budget's there, orientation materials are there. You'll see here, this is all the material I sent to you in an email. In a few days, it will be on our page and you can click open Did I just click open to the Office of Policy and Legal
Yes.
Analysis? Okay. So in the future, when you want to find materials related to the committee, that is going to be one of the places that you can go to find stuff. And again, we're back to marine resources. The other thing I just want to point out is if people want to testify, so if someone calls you and says, how do I testify now in the remote world? There's a link right here for testimony. There's also a little further over the YouTube link. So if you want to watch another committee, you go to their committee page and you find the YouTube link and you click it. This is how the public will watch this committee, Marine Resources. This is how you can watch us or any other committee. And of course, we still have the old-fashioned live audio. I'm sure you all remember that. That still exists.
Lynn, a question with
Yes.
testimony.
Yes.
Is it different for each committee, or is this linking you to that more general site that we used last time?
It links you to the more general site, I think, and then you go down here and the person who wants to submit picks their committee that they want to submit. And what will appear is an LD, but since we don't have any public hearings scheduled, there's nothing for our committee right now. But it's the same as in the past session. So I think that's enough of a run through of the web. I mean, again, I'm going to be brief. In fact, I'd probably be done long before I gave myself all this time to talk to you about. It's a learning experience. I'm still learning. Getting things posted is getting things emailed to you before meetings, and you being able to find them in your email box and pull them up on the screen. It's going to be a learning experience for all of us. So feedback to me is greatly appreciated. If something's not working, let's try and figure it out. And also similarly, if you want to go more in depth on the variety of materials that I shared with you in an email yesterday, I think that you should just reach out to me and we can have a conversation, because I did share a lot. And I'm trying to share my screen now to briefly go through some of the material. So this is what you should have received. Do you now see a frequently asked questions about the legislative process on your screen?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, so this is the orientation material that I'm going to briefly touch on, and some of it I've already done for you. I already talked about the fact that I'm nonpartisan and what I do. This tells you reach out to me if you need help. This tells you it's confidential. Another thing that's important to know is that the Freedom of Access Act does apply to all the work that you do when there's 3 or more of you appointed for the purpose of conducting business on behalf of the committee. I read that, it's a little technical, but there may be times in the Zoom world where you would have met in person, maybe down in the cafeteria to talk, and now you have to do it by Zoom. And so there's some need to give some thought to whether or not a meeting of 3 or more members of a committee from different parties constitutes a subcommittee. And again, this doesn't apply to caucusing. Caucusing is not public, so you don't have to worry about whether or not it's done in the light of day, as they say. Similarly, everything that we produce, official papers, eventually becomes public record. That is really more applicable to some of the work I do behind the scenes. We have working files here in OPLA. which may include, for example, a draft. You may have come to me and said, draft me an amendment. It will be in my file. You may decide not to introduce it. Once the session is over, that's part of the public record. But again, not until after the session is over. I'm going to move on. For the people who are new, or for anyone who just really doesn't remember, how we get to where we're going, here's the flow of legislation in the committee process. I'm not going to go through that part. There is a whole 2 pages on how to read a bill. I'm not going to go through that with you, but again, people, if you have questions, reach out to me. I'm happy to do a one-on-one to answer questions. Committee bills, and the next page is carryover bills. So,
Lynn, are you changing the screen? Because it's still the first screen.
Oh, yes, I am. It's not moving from.
No.
Oh, well, you've missed it all. Let's see. Well, I don't know how to do that. I'm not sure how to do that. Well, I'm going to stop sharing then, because no sense for you staring at the wrong page. I was just going through the pages of the material. I'll have to figure out how screen sharing works at a later date. I was going to just mention committee bills and carryover bills. Carryover bills, we'll all learn about those near the end of the session. If there's something you haven't finished this session that you want to carry over to the next session. Committee bills, though, I thought I'd mention, there are statutes or joint rules or joint orders that allow different committees to introduce legislation. You have some reports coming this session and next session that have attached to them the ability to introduce legislation. So unlike cloture, unlike a bill you sponsor that you have to have in by a certain deadline, committee bills, the committee can introduce them at any time, well, generally at any time during the session, if they have the legal authority to do so. This will come up when you receive some of the reports that are coming in this session and next session. You may have the opportunity to introduce a bill. So I just mentioned that so that if I say the words committee bill, it may ring a bell for you. And if not, again, feel free to reach out and ask questions. So that, I think, was all of the material that I just wanted to show to you and say it's going to be posted on the webpage soon. I wanted to segue into something that you all need to consider. And I wanted to share my screen, but I'm not sure I can scroll through it, so I'm not going to do that. But the other matter I wanted to bring before you was committee rules. Each committee has a set of rules that govern the behavior and the process in the committee. And I attached the standard rules in the email I sent you. I also attached the addendum that the legislative council adopted, the legislative council drafted, and that was adopted, that deals with the COVID world. I'm going to go through that briefly. The project for the committee is, if you want to make changes to these standard rules, you have a discussion, you have a vote. I draft up proposed amendment to the committee rules. Those are submitted to the presiding officers, and they either approve them or don't at their pleasure. And then what comes back are the committee rules. So those of you who know the committee rules and have been around a while, the most common amendment is, does the committee get to eat and drink in the committee room? Originally, I thought we didn't need to discuss this because it's all Zoom. Senator Miramont, I believe, pointed out that these rules apply to the second session as well. And I think we all hope that the second session will be not via Zoom. So because we may in the second session, or maybe part of this session, be in person, one of the things you should think about is, do you want to amend the rules? Currently, the rules say that committee members, you can drink water, but that's all. Or if you have a meeting, a public hearing or a work session that goes beyond 6 p.m., you can consume beverages and you may consume food. The most common amendment is committee members can consume beverages and eat food during any public hearing or work session. So I'm not sure, Senator Marymount and Representative McCray, when you wanted to have the committee discuss this.
Right now, let's do it. Vote.
Okay.
Be done with this.
I'll put myself on mute and let you all discuss.
Okay, I think we should have that if we get back in session, which I'm certainly pushing for. And we run in from being late in the chamber, and I'm sorry, many of you know this scenario. And if you're new, that happens. We'll go long in the House and Senate chamber. Everybody's waiting to testify. Do we hold them up another hour, or do we get over there, get a quorum, sit there and eat our lunch, and then we can listen to them? They usually understand that we're trying to be respectful of their time, and we're not just eating because we're bored. It works in many of our committees, and it's just a good tool to have. So that's the reason.
Yeah, and I think, as you said, Senator, we generally explain this is, we don't usually snort down food in front of everybody just out of courtesy, but there are times when it's really necessary and it is a time saver. So I agree. Do we want to take a hand count of whether people agree with adding that amendment or requesting that amendment?
If I may, Representative, I believe that voting needs to, because this is an official vote of the committee, and the rule now is visually confirm it. So it needs to be either or. It needs to be oral. Is that correct, Linda? Is that your understanding? You're on mute, Linda.
There, I'm sorry. Yes, my understanding is that all voting needs to be roll call.
Well, except that the guidance that came out didn't say that.
Oh.
So once again, we have some confusion, but I think if we could roll call, or we could raise hands and then say, I see Representative Hockingham, yes, we could call it out. It would still be audio that way. Senator Marymount, do you have strong feelings about how we do that?
Not at all.
Okay.
I have
well,
no interest.
Representative Hockingham?
I've had my hand raised because I just wanted to use this discussion to say that I don't think we should, I'm not in favor of continuing meetings like this as we go on. I think that's known, and I'm mostly reaching out to the Democrats on the committee to please let us start having meetings in person, reach out to your leadership. And because as we've seen already, these meetings have problems, technology problems. They're always going to have technology problems. This presentation, for example, if it was being done in front of us, it would be up on a projector screen. We'd be able to see it. We'd have copies of the paper in front of us that we don't have. We've been told to print our own copies of paper. This is going kind of like how I thought it would go. It somewhat works, but not really. It doesn't work the way it's supposed to work. I don't like it, and it's not just that I don't like it or don't prefer it. It's just not a good way to do it.
Okay,
So I
heard.
would urge you guys to try to bring us into work in person sooner than later.
Thanks, Billy Bob. I mean, Representative Fockingham. How about the question that were asked? Let's try raising hands and see if that works. How many
Representative
people?
What's the
Stanley,
question?
if this was important, Representative Stanley, you would not be able to vote because we can't see you. You would have to call your leadership in the House and tell them that you want to be recorded as yay or nay, and then we'd get it because you have 2 days to vote on something past the actual vote. So today you will not be counted.
And Representative Hutchins, can you hear us now? And you're unmuted, but we can't hear you. So
Perhaps he
let's-
doesn't have his microphone on.
Well,
okay.
this is not one that, if you, Representative Hutchins, if you can hear us and you object to being able to eat, then run over to the committee room and let Lynn know. If you don't care, we'll just pass this and move on. So everybody who can figure out how to raise their hand in favor of this amendment to the committee rules to allow eating at any time that we determine that we should be able to do it, please raise your hand.
So you can do it either with the hand
Yeah,
raised
either way.
or hand up. So I see Representative Fockingham, Representative Bloom, Senator Miramont, Representative Kraft, Senator Maxman, Representative Hepler, Representative Alley, Senator Rosen, Representative Thorne. And then Representative Stanley and Representative Hutchins need to let their leadership know. Is that right, Senator?
That's correct.
Okay.
Or in Representative Hutchins could also go over to the committee room and do it from 6 feet away, but other than that, yeah.
Okay. And the only person we're missing then is Representative McDonald. Okay.
So it's passed.
Yeah.
Okay, good. I think, is that the only one we had to do, Lynn?
It is. I was just going to note for people that if you look at the rules, the addendum, it's called COVID Electronic Meetings Addendum. It does spell out how to establish a quorum, voting, and actually, as you were talking, I read that it says to either see or hear how each member present chooses to be, to vote. So I'm going to interpret that as if someone is on the phone, like Representative Stanley, that she could vote by voice. And as long as we can identify that that's Representative Stanley and she just voted whatever way she votes, that she does not have to follow up with a phone call. And similarly, I interpret this to say that the raised hand like this would work. I know Linda and I have talked about how when we're voting on bills and amendments, that may be a little more difficult for us to record. So roll call may be preferable at that point. But anyways, the rule says to either see or hear. So I think Representative McCrate, you were correct that what Linda and I said is not what the rule says.
Excellent. Okay,
Yeah.
so Representative Stanley, you want to weigh in? And did I see that Representative Hutchins has now got his audio working?
Well, except
Close.
could we just double check this? Because I know that that's Representative Stanley, but there have been problems where it could be somebody from somewhere else calling and you don't know that it's really who they say they are.
Mhm.
So that's the problem with not having a visual.
Okay.
Can I speak on that?
Yeah, could everybody put their hands down so we know who's
Yeah.
the mechanical, the
I have my
technological
hand up.
hand? Yeah, hang on, Billy Bob. Sherm, were you raising your hand to speak?
His audio's not on.
Can't hear you still. Are you raising your hand to vote yes on food and drink?
Nod your head.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Excellent. We got basics back.
So if you would lower your hand, Representative Hutchins. He's working on it. And Representative Falkingham, you had a question or a statement.
Yeah, and I think I'm in agreement with you on that. I object to that. My interpretation of that rule is that when a vote happens, when someone is visual, they can raise their hand or you can hear them say yes. But if someone is not visual, they do not get to vote. We can't allow that.
Yeah. Okay. And that's what it says somewhere.
Okay.
Okay. All right. So nothing else in the rules that is typically what we change?
Not in my experience. I will say that some committees have tried to change other things. They're generally rejected by the presiding officers, but the presiding officers historically will approve the food and drink exception.
Is there still one about hats in the committee room?
Oh, that's a good question. I don't know. I have read them, but I really wasn't paying attention to hats.
Let's figure that out later. Since it takes some looking up. We're at 10:02. Do you have anything else, Lynn?
I do not have anything else. Well, no, I do. So I'm wondering if it would be helpful. I'm doing this for state and local, where I open up a Zoom meeting, invite you all, maybe for an hour or 2 hours. And if you want to drop by and practice some of this stuff, I will make my best effort to help you practice raising your hands, unraising your hands, muting, unmuting, all of that. If that's of interest, I know that I talked to Senator Miramont and Representative McCrate about that, and they thought that was a fine idea if I wanted to do it. I guess if that's of interest to people, maybe raise your hands now and I can send out an invite. Again, this is totally optional, just an opportunity to practice. Anyone? Okay, I have one hand, so therefore it's going to happen. And I will send out the invite. And again, show up if you want, don't show up if you don't want to. And that's all from me.
And I have one. Sherm, can you still hear me? Nod your head. Okay. Are you using that pad that they gave us in this House or Senate, or are you using your own computer? You're using the one that they gave you.
Muted. Let me try to unmute him.
Using your own computer. You are. Okay, good. Thank you. We'll figure this out. All right. So Lynn, next.
Next up is a 15-minute break, after which the department will start a few minutes early, but I see they're most, if not all of them are here. So I think they'll be keyed up. I just want to point out, if you were thinking to share your screen, if you weren't on, you know that I failed miserably at that, but you're more than happy to try. And if you're successful, I'm going to follow up and ask you how you did it.
And could I just interject here, Lynn? If this is a break, so good idea to mute and turn off your camera. Because, you know, typically you'd be walking out of the room for a little while.
So back at 10:20, is that the time you'd like everyone back?
Sounds good.
Okay.
Thank you.
Go away. No. Nope, they're on break.
I can still hear you and see you.
I can't get over there.
Can you hear me?
Yep. I can hear you.
Okay. I think you need to tap and then on the video, there's a mute button where you can mute that. And then also on the video part, I think if you, on the bottom of your screen, there's a video button. Well, you've muted, that's good. But I can still see you. I think there's one where there's a camera. And if you touch the camera or click on the camera, then it will cut off your video.
Should be in your lower left.
There you go.
corner of
That's
the
it.
screen.
That's it, I think. No, that was Pat. Hi, Pat.
There, he got it.
You're not muted, Pat. Or who is that? Somebody's not muted.
You hear me?
Yes, you, Jim.
I'm back on too.
Senator Miramont, would
Yes.
can I recommend that we all rename ourselves so we can understand who the reps are, and, you know, the public could understand who the reps are and who the senators are? Because you can
Sure.
rename
That was,
yourself.
that's right. We had talked about that before. I just said, let's have a name. I didn't say that part about the title. So good idea.
Yeah, I think then we can separate people who are not us necessary.
Yeah, they had asked that we do that anyway. So that was
Okay.
good thinking.
People might have to be told how to do it.
And
You press the 3 buttons next to the mute button on your name, and it says rename, and that's how you can rename yourself. Does everyone see that? Was there a place that said when we are due back? I didn't see that, if that was something that was already posted. Like, when are we due back?
10:20.
10:20.
Is that somewhere that I can't see it?
No, somebody said it.
It was
Okay.
stated.
Yay. Am I on? I don't see no pictures, nothing. On. You on there, Bob?
All right, it'll probably take a couple minutes, just like it does when we call a recess in the real room for everybody to get back in front of their screens.
Representative Alley, near your mute button is looks like a old-fashioned movie camera.
Yep.
If you click on that, you should come back.
That's
There you
video.
are. There you are.
Okay, good. Yeah, I put them headphones on. I couldn't figure out why I couldn't hear nothing.
So a suggestion was to have your name
Yeah, clear.
show that you're a senator or a representative before your name. Senator Miramont has Senator David Miramont. And to do that, at least one way is to go to your picture and click on it, and you'll see 3 little dots in the corner.
That me?
Everybody.
Oh, everybody. Okay. I'm
See, if you see the 3 little dots and click on them.
Yep.
Then if you drop down, it has rename. And you can put in your rep or your send.
in the wrong direction, I guess.
Yeah, I didn't mean to get so formal, but I can't change it while we're in the meeting on my phone, so
Yeah.
I'll leave it.
Rename right there.
Yep.
Okay, well, I'm supposed to do that now. Anything?
Do you see your name in a box?
Yep.
And you can just add rep, R-E-P, period, in front of it. We can do this. We can play with it later too, but.
Yeah.
Representative Alley, I can also do that for you if you would prefer.
Okay.
Okay. I'll
Oh,
take care
good.
of it.
So let's
Yes.
keep moving with the briefings. And Lynn, rename anybody who needs it. Everybody else can mute themselves and listen to, well, first Lynn to introduce, I believe, whoever our first briefing is to keep this going.
Thank you, Senator. So we are going to now be hearing from the Department of Marine Resources. And I believe the commissioner is looking for the commissioner in C.
I'm
I
right
don't
here.
s- Ah,
There it is.
okay.
Okay.
There you are. So
I'm hiding in
Commissioner,
plain sight.
you are hiding in plain sight. I appreciate that. And it looks like you're ready to go. So thank you for being here. And I'm going to put myself on mute now.
Great, thank you, Lynn. Senator Miramont, Representative McCrate, and members of the Joint Standing Committee on Marine Resources, welcome. This is certainly new, meeting this way. We're all going to have to get used to it, that's for sure. But I can assure you, having run many meetings on Zoom and with Microsoft Teams and with for very large meetings, ASMFC from Maine to Florida. We will get used to it and we'll get through it. There's a learning curve. Certainly was a learning curve for me, not being very technologically advanced, but look at me, I was even able to change my own name on the screen today. So things are looking up. I'll go through some introductory slides and an overview of the agency. And then I'm going to have Colonel Carroll from the Maine Marine Patrol do an overview of Marine Patrol. I'm going to have Bureau Director Carl Wilson do the Bureau of Marine Science, and then Director Cole Canowit do Public Health. There's other pieces of the puzzle, if you will, from an agency perspective that we'll all touch on, and then we'll talk about some emerging issues. So Jeff Nichols, the Communications Director, is advancing the slides for me today. Jeff, if you could just turn your camera on, maybe just be seen just for a second. You really don't want to see him, I know. That's probably, I don't. He probably can't hear. I'll just keep rolling. So within the commissioner's office, besides Jeff Nichols, who is our communications director, we have Meredith Mendelson, who is the deputy commissioner, Megan Ware, who is the director of external affairs for the department, and external affairs includes work around the Atlantic State Marine Fisheries Commission and the New England Fisheries Management Council as my proxy. And then Deidre Gilbert is the director of marine policy. You won't be hearing from the three of them today, but know that Deidre will be the point of contact for the majority of the work in front of the committee. And I'm one of a few commissioners that does spend a lot of time with the committee. As a commissioner, I've been commissioner, it'll be 10 years in July. So I've been around for a little bit, and prior to that, with the department as the director of the Bureau of Sea Run Fisheries and Habitat, which we'll talk about when we get to the budget components. And then before that, I was the director of the Maine Atlantic Salmon Commission, and even prior to that, I worked for a nonprofit called the Coastal Conservation Association. So I've been dealing with the Marine Resources Committee since about 1992 or 93. So I guess I've earned some of the gray hairs that I have now. So this is really a great committee. Very seldom do you see partisan issues in this committee. I've always felt that this committee, amongst all committees in the legislature, works incredibly well together to advance issues that are important to the marine industry, commercial fishing, aquaculture, recreational fishing, and the growing issues that we have to face kind of under those umbrellas, including issues that we will face, such as climate change. So, Jeff, next slide.
Yep.
Yeah, and I'm assuming you can all see the slides on the screen. So I see your heads nodding. So, so DMR's statutory mission under Title 12 is to conserve and develop marine and estuarine resources, conduct and sponsor scientific research, promote and develop Maine coastal fisheries and in the industries, advise and cooperate with local, state, and federal officials concerning any and all activities in coastal waters, and then implement and administer and enforce the laws and regulations necessary for this purpose. Next slide. So here at the department, we are involved in the management of more than 70 marine and estuarine or diadromous species that are harvested commercially, caught recreationally by recreational anglers, or raised by aquaculturists. In 2019, the landed value of all species, including, I believe Jeff has included aquaculture in here, is $673 million, with a final value to Maine's economy at around $1.8 billion. Included in that number are 167 wholesale distributors, processors, wharfs, pounds, and co-ops, licensed lobster dealers, and they all contribute another, and it was part of that number, an estimated just shy of $1 billion to the Maine economy. So if you look at those two numbers, you can see that lobster is the king when it comes to our marine economy. The Maine economy supports, this was a report that actually was done that was funded through what we call the RED Board, Research, Education, and Development Board, which is funded through the lobster license plates. And the Maine Dealers Association, working with an economist, did this report And one of the things to highlight is that this fishery supports about 5,500 jobs, and that was back in 2016. So it's a significant portion of what we're dealing with. There are over 13,000 commercial harvesters and about 1,200 dealers. And in Maine, there are almost 250,000 recreational anglers that made over 500,000 trips and contribute, and that's another estimated $130 million to Maine's coastal economies. And just to give you a quick snapshot of the 10 ports in 2019 by ex-vessel value, and when you hear us say ex-vessel value, what I'm referring to is the landed value of the product, nothing more, just what fishermen were paid at the dock. And you can see, I won't go down through all of them, but you can see from Stonington, landed values of $50 million down to Owl's Head at 13 and everything in between. So those are the top 10 of ex-vessel value, and the vast majority of that is going to be lobster. What you don't see here, which is kind of surprising, is Portland at the top. When Portland was the groundfish, when Maine was really driven by groundfish, Portland was one of the top landing ports in the country. But that certainly has changed with a shift away from groundfish to lobsters. The species, the top 10 species landed value for 2019, this is in millions of dollars. The top 2, lobsters, and then Elvers is number 2 at 20 million. That's a fishery that has seen a lot of change over the years with the support of this committee. You can see as you go down through that list, things might jump out at you that you might not think of, like bloodworms, a fishery worth $6 million. Urchins at 5.8, but we'll probably see a major decline in that number this year as some dealers dropped out and as COVID has impacted that fishery. And then things like Atlantic herring, tuna and scallops. Herring from a volume perspective has always been the top from a volume perspective, but that fishery is in a rebuilding stage, and we're starting to see now menhaden surpass Atlantic herring, and that's all used for lobster bait here in the state. Next slide. Aquaculture value. This is the total value. The one thing I can't parse out for you is Atlantic salmon. To tell you what that overall value is. We deal with confidentiality laws pertaining to companies and individuals. And since there is only one company that participates in raising Atlantic salmon in the ocean, we're not able to break that out for you, but those numbers are included in this total. So as you can see, they're a little bit kind of scattered, but there is a growth here in the value of aquaculture, and it certainly is an area of great interest for a lot of people, and one that I'm sure we'll be spending quite a bit of time talking about during this session. So I touched on a couple at the very beginning, but besides the legislative process and the regulatory process, we deal with the management of our marine resources, both at the state and local level, all the way to the local level when you think of soft shell clams and river herring harvest, all the way up through to the federal level with the New England Fisheries Management Council. We'll start off with the Atlantic State Marine Fisheries Commission. ASMFC is the acronym, and you'll hear us refer to that a lot. Senator Miramont is currently the non-federal commissioner, is the legislative commissioner to ASMFC. I am the administrative commissioner, and Steve Train is the commissioner who is the governor's appointee, and he is a lobsterman from Long Island. There's 15 Atlantic coastal states from Maine to Florida who are part of ASMFC, and we manage 27 species. So, and I am currently serving my second term as the chairman of ASMFC. ASMFC, from a regulatory standpoint, manages from the shore or from our tidal rivers from the shoreline out to 3 miles. The New England Fisheries Management Council is made up of 5 states, all the New England states with the exception of Vermont. And we deal with 10 fisheries management plans for federal waters, so the waters outside of 3 miles. This includes things like scallops and groundfish, but does not include species like lobster. And then on an on a nationwide level, we're also members of a member state of the International Shellfish Sanitation Conference, the ISSC. Here they develop water quality and health standards for shellfish. And in Maine, we must maintain compliance in order to ship shellfish out of state. And so,
Commissioner?
Yes.
Yes, Commissioner, Senator Miramont here. For the committee, I don't want to get past ASMFC too far. The folks who are there to make sure that the species are protected after years of wiping out some or bringing some like shrimp down to where we can't harvest anymore. Just have to appreciate that the SMFC has the power of federal law. The decisions made are upheld. They become the quota. They're managing by the whole ecology now, starting to shift to that. And the commissioner and Megan Ware know more about this than anybody there. And there are some brilliant people there, as far as I can tell. And I'm probably not even smart enough to know how smart they are, but I really think that that's an amazing organization, and we're lucky to have such a connection to it. And I want you to learn more about it at the appropriate time. So thanks.
Yeah, thank you, Senator. I think just for making sure everybody understands, when the federal law component, the ASMFC is set up under the Atlantic Coast Cooperative Fisheries, and I was going to say, let me make sure I get this right. It's under the Atlantic Coastal Act, excuse me, and states have to maintain compliance under fisheries management plans as part of that act. If you fail to maintain compliance, ASMFC can find you out of compliance, and then a final ruling is made by the Secretary of Commerce. And if you are found out of compliance, then they can put severe penalties in place, which includes not being able to distribute product outside of state boundaries. So there's pretty severe penalties in place for not maintaining compliance with ASMFC. Next slide, yeah. So I just want to touch on this just a little bit on the jurisdiction of the Department of Marine Resources. Representatives Stanley and Thorne made comments about how they're kind of removed from the coast. Just because you're removed from the coast, though, does not mean that you're not part of where DMR does our work. I mean, I think it's important to point out that the Penobscot River watershed is well represented with Representative Stanley, Thorne, in the upper part of the watershed, where we do a lot of work as it pertains to diadromous species. So the diadromous species work that we do, anadromous and catadromous, and feel free to raise your hand if you want definitions of those two, but sea-run fisheries take part in every county of the state, even Aroostook County with the Aroostook River, with Atlantic salmon coming up to St. John and then coming into the Aroostook River across the border from New Brunswick. So obviously our main footprint is our coastal counties and our fisheries, but I don't want to diminish the important role that all counties play in the state. So having a perspective outside of the coast is important when it comes to the issues that face us here at the Department of Marine Resources. Next slide. So department organizations, just quickly, the bureaus that we have here, we have a Bureau of Policy Management. You'll hear, we refer to it simply as the Commissioner's Office. Within the Commissioner's Office, you have the Maine Coastal Program, you have licensing, and then the aquaculture program. And then all of the fisheries management work falls under here. So Megan Ware's role within the Bureau of Policy and Management is not highlighted here, but is a key component. You have the Bureau of Marine Patrol, which the Colonel will speak more to in a moment. Very proud of the work that Maine Marine Patrol does with a very small staff. We have, as you saw, the coast, we have a very big footprint. And we interact with a lot of different individuals. And so we do a lot with a little. And so that's important to point out. Marine science, you'll hear from Carl Wilson. While sea run fisheries is a focus currently of the Bureau of Marine Science, as part of our budget this year, you will see we are asking to recreate the Bureau of Sea Run Fisheries and Habitat, which was a bureau that was in place that I had the honor of serving as its director for quite some time. One of the major roles of the Bureau of Marine Science is biological monitoring and assessment. We play a very key role in feeding information into fisheries management plans, both at the state, regional, and federal level. And then the Bureau of Public Health. And public health is just that. It's really about public health, the well-being of individuals who like to partake in the eating of our shellfish. So, and Director Canna will talk more about that.
Commissioner?
Yes,
with a little delay, could you define those terms, the sea run fisheries?
Sure. So anadromous and catadromous. So anadromous species are species that live a large portion of their life cycle in the salt water and then return to freshwater to spawn. And in many cases, like Atlantic salmon, almost to the very spot that they were spawned. Species like river herring, they'll come back to their same river and work up into the upper part of the watersheds to spawn in lakes and ponds. Blueback herring, very similar to a river herring when they spawn in the riverine habitat of our systems. Catadromous is just the reverse. They spend the majority of their life cycle in freshwater, and when I'm talking about eels in this case, and then they, at the ripe old age of anywhere between 15 and 25 years of age, the females will leave as silver eels to migrate back to the Sargasso Sea, where they will spawn and then come back as elvers. So anadromous spawn in freshwater, catadromous spawn in saltwater, and then the holistic term to include all of those species are diadromous, the sea run species.
Thank you.
So I touched on a little bit of these when I mentioned the Bureau of Policy and Management, but we developed the policy initiatives at the state, regional, and federal management levels. We staff the advisory councils. Advisory councils are a critical piece of gathering information for the department to hear directly from the affected industries. And we'll talk a little bit more about those as we go forward. We administer the public hearings for the regulations. And then we administer the aquaculture lease process. And you'll hear about our regular public hearing process, and then the administrative process or for aquaculture leases is an adjudicatory process. So it's a much more onerous process. And you'll learn more about that as the session continues. And then we also administer the licenses, upwards of over 20,000 licenses annually. We've got a great licensing staff here that I like to say they're lean and mean. And even in the face of COVID, they've done a fantastic job making sure that individuals have what they need to be able to participate in the fisheries. So back to the advisory councils. This is a vehicle for the stakeholder input on management measures and research agendas. So we have the DMR Advisory Council, which is the overarching advisory council, which gives advice and consent to me as commissioner on rules that are being promulgated. We also have a Lobster Advisory Council that gives, again, advice to me as in all things as it pertains to lobster management. And then we have 7 lobster policy management councils, or what we call the shorthand is zone councils. And that information feeds up through the Lobster Advisory Councils. They play a very critical role regionally because this fishery, as we get into details as the session goes along, you will learn that one size does not fit all with the lobster fishery. What Representative Falkingham deals with in his zone is much different than Representative McDonald would deal with in her zone, or Representative Alley would deal with in his area. Even though they're fairly close together geographically, the fisheries are different in all areas. We also have species advisory councils, which include other species advisory councils, I should say. They include sea urchins and scallops. We have a commercial fishing safety council. We have an aquaculture advisory council, and then the RED board, the Lobster Research Education and Development Board. That is that license plate money that I spoke of earlier. And then the Shellfish Advisory Council. And again, some meet more frequently than others, but they're very important in bringing issues to the department. And beyond the advisory councils, whenever possible, I try to get out, even before rulemaking and before we have draft rules, I try to spend as much time interacting with the industry outside of the more formal regulatory process and even outside of the advisory council process, because I think it's that kitchen table approach that really gives us good information on how to manage fisheries, and it kind of peels the onion back a little bit, and you're able to have more honest conversations when you don't feel like when the industry member doesn't feel like they've got a regulation being hung over their head. We've talked a lot about the zone councils, but for the folks that don't live along the coast, when we refer to the coast of Maine, we don't refer to it as north and south. We refer to it as east and west. So to the western, you have Zone G, and as you proceed to the east, you go all the way down to Zone A. Again, those regional differences are significant from G to A, but also even within some of the zones, there's quite a bit of difference in fishing practices. You'll hear much more about that as we go forward. I touched on the Division of Aquaculture as far as the process, but the division administers LPAs and leases. The LPAs are limited purpose aquaculture licenses, which are good for a year, and each one is for 400 square feet. And then the leases, both experimental and standard leases. We do conduct hearings for these leases. The staff creates site reports based on the sites that have been chosen by individuals. We currently have 707 active LPAs in 2020. We have 63 active experimental leases and 105 active standard leases. When I started as commissioner, I don't think we had probably but 200 or 300 LPAs. And we used to say that all of the experimental and standard leases would fit inside the fence at the Portland Jetport. That's expanded since then. But still, if you put them all together, you could still fit them behind the breakwater in Rockland Harbor. So it's not the size of what is being made out to with some folks, but it is a growth area and an area that will take some conversation with this committee and members of the public and the industry moving forward. Maine Coastal Program is new to the department in 2017 when under the LePage administration, they broke up what was called the State Planning Office and pieces were moved to different agencies. The Coastal Program originally was in Maine Geological at Department of Ag, Conservation and Forestry, but because of its relationship to the department and how we were interacting with it, it was determined in 2017 that it should move to the Department of Marine Resources. It is authorized by the Coastal Zone Management Act, which is a federal act that was created in 1972. And this is a network program that focuses on coastal pollution remediation, climate adaptation, habitat mapping, municipal planning development, and working waterfront protection, all very key components here at the Department of Marine Resources. And that when we say it's a network program, we fund positions in other agencies. So we have positions that are funded by the coastal program at the AG's office, at Ag Conservation Forestry, at Department of Environmental Protection, and many here at the department. So coastal program does distribute federal funds and enable projects that benefit Maine's coastal communities. Just want to touch on some of the programs that that the coastal program does have, which includes Coast Week, which is cleaning up our coastline, the Coastal Mapping Initiative that we have housed down in Booth Bay Harbor now, and then the Maine Stream Habitat Bureau, which displays habitat for several stream-dependent species important to Maine's economy. A lot of that is when you hear about fish passage. You will no doubt hear about dams blocking fishways, but as members of the committee that have been around for a while will know that culverts also play a critical role in the health of our streams and rivers. And not only is it about passing fish up through culverts, but also not holding back water that can become impounded, warm up, and then impact the habitat for those streams. So with that's kind of the big overview and the overview of the Bureau of the Commissioner's Office of Marine Policy. And so now what I would like to do is turn it over to Colonel Carroll. I had the pleasure of promoting Colonel Carroll after Colonel Cornish retired a few years ago. And under the Colonel's leadership, we've made several changes, refocused some of our efforts to improve upon some of the needed assets that they have, and ensuring that we're being creative so we can fund the positions and get to fund the positions on the ground that are needed. So with that, I'll turn it over to you, Jay.
Okay, thank you, Commissioner, and good morning, committee members. Like I say, my name is Jay Carroll. I've been with the Marine Patrol now for 25 years, and I've been the chief for almost 2 years now. This first slide here is there's only a handful of slides here just to give you a very general overview of what the Bureau of Marine Patrol does. So this first slide, it's about our mission. Our mission is to protect and conserve the state's resources and enforce the laws and regulations that do so. I would go on and say a very big part of that is outreach and education, and our officers do a really good job at working in collaboration with the industry to enforce the laws and keep the playing field level. As far as enforcement powers go, our officers have statewide jurisdiction. They graduate from the Maine Criminal Justice Academy, just like any municipal police officer, sheriff's deputy, or state trooper. We do inland details, checking seafood dealers for proper licensing and legal product and whatnot. So we do go inland several times a year and check those dealers. We have the authority, our officers have the authority to enforce all laws of the state. And we enforce marine resources laws all the way to the jurisdiction of the EEZ, which is on our own fishermen, our own licensees. Those laws apply all the way to 200 miles. We do have a joint enforcement agreement with the National Marine Fisheries Service. So we're federally deputized, and we work with them to make sure there's compliance in the federal fisheries out there. Go ahead, Jeff. So this slide is just to basically give you an overview of some of the specialty teams that we have. We have a joint maritime security team with the state police tactical team. So that's the top two Slides on the left there, Homeland Security and Tactical Boat Operations. That's really what that's about. We've never really been called to action. They do train annually. We have done some security details. We do some dives when Navy ships come in and different things like that. We do have a joint underwater recovery team as well with the Maine State Police. So they do evidence dives, or we work on recovery, body recoveries, or things like that. We have a whale disentanglement team. It's a small group that all the officers will attend a training course, which is held at the Center for Coastal Studies down in Provincetown, Massachusetts. It's a really good course. I used to lead that team for several years when I was a sergeant. And it's very rewarding work. So search and rescue.
Chief, have we ever done it?
Oh, yes, we've worked on numerous entanglements over the years. Yes.
Thank you.
Yep. Search and rescue is a big part of our job, or not a big part of our job, but an important part of our job. We work jointly with the Coast Guard on search and rescue operations along the coastline. And we went over with the JEA agreement. So go ahead, Jeff, next slide. Marine Patrol assets. So we have a fleet we have large vessels, mid-range vessels, and small vessels. And in total, we probably have close to 40 watercraft assets. Our largest patrol vessels are lobster-style boats. Right now, we're actually building a new 42-foot Calva Beale that will be stationed in Booth Bay Harbor. We decommissioned the patrol vessel Monitor after a electrical fire that it had, and we sold that boat. So we're excited to get this new boat. We had just launched a new 46 super wide Westmac that is stationed or home ported on Mount Desert Island. So we still have some work to do. We got ourselves over the years probably in a bit of a place where a vessel replacement program was extremely important, and we're working to make some progress in that area. We hope to replace our oldest large vessel is a 35-foot Young Brothers that's down in Lubac. She's getting probably close to, she's over 25, I think, anyways. But so we'll be working at trying to replace her after this next boat is commissioned. We do have an aircraft, and I will say all of these assets come under the 3rd division, really, within the Bureau, which is the Special Services Division, which is supervised by our Captain Matt Talbot. Does a great job with that stuff. Okay, I think that covers that. Go ahead, Jeff. And I think this is our last slide. So this basically just shows the division line. The state is divided into 2 divisions. Each is commanded by a lieutenant. And then each of those divisions has 3 sections, which is supervised by a field sergeant. The division line for the state is at the Belfast Searsport line. A few years back, we actually did a restructure and we moved that line. The division line had been for years and years at the St. George River, but with certain activities, particularly winter fisheries, the urchins and scallops and stuff, moving east, and some lobsters, a lot of lobster activity moving east, we thought it prudent to move that division line up that way, and we shifted both resources and officers, actually personnel, to the east when we did that. So the Western Division, the division office is in Booth Bay Harbor. Lieutenant Dan White commands that division. And in the Eastern Division, the office is in Lemoyne State Park, and Lieutenant Troy Dow commands that division. And I think that's it for me. I'm gonna have to pass the baton unless anyone has questions.
Thank you.
I can't, just a comment to the clerk. I can't see the screen to see if people are raising their hands. Are you able to do that?
We can do a full Q&A too at the end, Representative, if that will be beneficial. I mean, we're in no rush.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. Thank you for that overview, Colonel. Just so the committee members are aware, as we're dealing with issues on particular bills moving forward for the work sessions, unless it pertains directly to a Marine Patrol issue, we usually bring Marine Patrol with us to work sessions to talk about the enforceability of some of the actions as well. So you'll have the ability to interact both with Colonel Carroll, Major Rob Beal, or Captain Matt Talbot, who would, one of those three would participate with us on work session issues. So
yeah, I have to commend you for that, Commissioner. More than any other committee, the right people are available to us all the time, and are also available outside the committee meeting. Members, please contact them, ask questions. They're very knowledgeable.
Thank you, Senator. Moving along to the Bureau of Marine Science. If you could get to the next screen. So Carl Wilson will be covering the activities within the Bureau of Marine Science. You can see here is a beautiful shot of our lab down in Booth Bay Harbor, and we'll talk more about that. But Carl, besides dealing with the issues facing fisheries, is also overseeing some big changes at the lab as well. So with that, I'll turn it over to Director Wilson.
Good morning, everybody. I'm going to assume you can hear me. Maybe Pat, you can give me a wave if I'm looking okay as far as volume.
You're good.
Okay, great. So yes, good morning, everybody. As Pat just mentioned, and Jeff, if we can go back to the picture of the lab, I just want to touch on that a little bit. Thank you. So this is our laboratory in Booth Bay Harbor. It represents the majority of this Bureau's activities, although we do have offices in Augusta, Bangor, and Jonesboro as well. This lab was originally a federal lab established in 1906, and I am told that this is the largest state marine lab on the East Coast of the United States. It started from a fisheries hatchery program where they grew lobster larvae for nearly 50 years, and then slowly transitioned into state ownership and state duties with the Department of Marine Resources emerging from the Department of Sea and Shore Fisheries back in the early 70s, I believe. As Pat alluded to in the last biennium budget, we had some, for us, rather needed and extensive upgrades of this facility. This facility was originally, well, started in 1906, but was renovated in 1992, I believe. And since that time has really had no upgrades to our now 30-year-old systems. And so the last biennium budget, we are renovating our chiller system for air conditioning, as well as our room controls. And we are also doing an extensive upgrade to our seawater facility, where we are modernizing the pumps. And then we're also increasing our biosecurity and isolation capabilities within our seawater facility as well. So thank you for the support for that. These are really much needed upgrades, and in a way, the timing of the pandemic hit very well with the renovations, and that staff have largely been out of the building since March. And then that's allowed our maintenance staff to really kind of rip things apart and put it back together. I do want to just really commend the staff of the Bureau of Marine Science and really the entire department of how we've adapted to COVID. We went from everyone working 5 days a week at the office or in the field to almost everyone pivoting to remote work from home. And that's been a big transition, but really successful at the same time too. So like everyone else, we hope to be back to normal soon. Okay, Jeff, thank you. Next slide, please. So our mission is fisheries research and monitoring. We try to strive for critical habitat protection, conservation, management, and protection and restoration of diatomaceous fish populations to the historical ranges. And we have a pretty active marine resource education group as well. Our Bureau really splits into two different areas, Bureau or the divisions of monitoring and assessment and the divisions of sea-run fish. And as Commissioner Kelleher indicated in the upcoming budget, the division of sea-run fish may become the Bureau of sea-run fish. And that's really, in my mind, elevating it to the level that it needs to be, and the importance of some of the work that this group is doing as well. Next slide, please. So a major part of the work that we do in the Bureau is collecting landings information from wholesale dealers, retailers, and harvesters as well. Commissioner Kelleher mentioned kind of the importance of lobster from a monetary value, but if you look at that split by live pounds, you'll see where lobster was, I believe, 86% of the value. For actual poundage land along the coast, it drops down to 40% or 47%. But you really do start to see some of the other species that are less valued, but have an important contribution to the coastal fisheries as well. Next slide, please. So landing is important, and why is this important? One is for accurate and timely information, and we hope that this provides information for better management. In some cases, we are feeding information up to the Commissioner's office on a daily basis, weekly or monthly basis for decision making. And really, when I started with the department 20 years ago, this was kind of an unheard of situation where we could providing near real-time data for decision-making purposes. At that time, there was a couple people in our landings group that literally had a list of dealers on a pad of paper that they would go through and call each year. Now, the landings group is our pretty much our largest group within the Bureau of Marine Science, and is going to be expanding considerably as we work towards 100% reporting in the lobster fishery. And frankly, federal and state requirements for landings information has increased dramatically over the last 20 years. And you know, we believe that we can work through a lot of our issues today with kind of this timely information that the landings program brings to us. Next slide, please. So the other kind of major leg within the Bureau of Marine Science is our monitoring programs. Speaking of the inshore trawl survey, we are now well into our second decade of that survey. And through COVID restrictions, we were unable to get underway this spring, but this fall we were able to successfully survey the coast on a normal time frame. You know, I think really to the credit of our group and to the Commissioner's office of providing the flexibility and the bandwidth to really explore how we can do our surveys in these extraordinary times. We were the only survey or fisheries survey that got underway on the East Coast that I know of this fall in the middle of all the COVID restrictions. And so that's a real testament to our staff figuring out ways to actively isolate themselves, protect the crew of our fishing vessel that we work cooperatively with, and ensure the safety of our staff as well. So this inshore trawl survey has been going on for nearly 2 decades. It's multi-species, groundfish and lobsters in bottom communities. This is not the lobster survey. This is a groundfish and multi-species survey as well. It just so happens that the way the Gulf of Maine is right now, lobsters are a dominant species, and yes, we do catch a lot of lobsters in the survey. The major, for most monitoring programs, really identifying trends and seasonal patterns is the main focus. And for the trawl survey, from having zero information on information like this along the coast 20 years ago, this survey is now used into up to 13 different stock assessments for the Gulf of Maine. We also have long-term commercial fishery monitoring programs with Atlantic herring, urchins, lobster, and when there was a northern shrimp fishery, the northern shrimp fishery. And this summer, actually, the Northern Shrimp Survey, which is a combination of state and federal collaborations to get that underway, was actually suspended. And I'm not sure if there's plans to try to move that forward, even in the face of restrictions being lifted within COVID, and that this is really one of the unfortunate conversations around resources for the coast of Maine with northern shrimp. We do have a very extensive lobster sampling program. These programs are near and dear to me. I was the lead lobster biologist for the first 15 years of my career with DMR, and we have a sea sampling program where we go out on commercial vessels and are essentially just along for the ride for the day, where we're measuring everything that comes up in the traps as they go. We also have a dedicated ventless trap survey. So this is where we disable the escape vents within lobster traps. And this is a collaborative project with, I believe, 9 fishermen along the coast. And we are contracting with them to set traps in designated areas. They do have some ability to kind of choose the siting of those traps within a half mile or so. But this program has been going on since the mid 2000s as well. So that's another excellent program. And then our juvenile settlement survey is a diver-based survey where we go down and use techniques that were originally developed by the University of Maine to essentially vacuum cobble substrate on the bottom. And the combination for lobsters, the combination of these programs allow almost a complete life history assessment of lobsters. And again, where we're looking at trends in lobster in this case, when we start to see different phases of the lobster life history and those trends start to kind of converge into a single story, that's when we feel like that's where these monitoring programs can really kind of contribute and not so much forecast, but give an indication of where the population is going. So that's a lot of emphasis within our group, and I think we more than just about any group in Maine, kind of the monitoring is kind of the essence of a lot of what we do, and we're in it for the long term, and hopefully we'll be able to provide good and timely data. Next slide, please. Okay, so our recreational fisheries monitoring programs, I wanted to put a placeholder here just to say that this program has gone under pretty significant changes over the last few years, where increased mandates from Atlantic States Marine Fisheries Commission have really enabled us to expand this program. And I think in coming years, we're going to see a nice kind of increased awareness of what's going on with recreational fisheries in Maine. And frankly, with climate change, I expect that recreational fishing is going to be even a stronger player within the marine community in coming decades. We're seeing, species slowly finding the Gulf of Maine more favorable for their to spend greater portions of their life. And anyway, so I think recreational fishing is something to pay attention to into the future. Next slide, please. Okay, so this is the Sea Run Fisheries and Habitat Division. Again, this is proposed as a potentially new bureau, which is really a return to where it was when Commissioner Kelleher was its bureau director. Its mission is to conserve, manage, protect, and restore diademous fish populations to their historical range, to secure sustainable recreational and commercial fisheries for diademous species, and to conduct and coordinate projects involving research, planning, management, connectivity, restoration, and propagation. And I'll say just this about this division is it's a whole new set of players. When I took over as bureau director, was promoted into the bureau director, I was really, struck by what a different set of players this group interacts with on a daily basis. These are not your normal kind of fisheries research, assessment, and management connected people. This can be for everything from town managers or selectmen to local land trusts or local fishermen that are interested in doing restoration projects or understanding what's going on with these species. And it's really interesting to see how far this group extends into Maine, and then also that's the diversity of people that they are interacting with on a daily basis. Next slide, please. And this is just again here is your test that Commissioner Kelleher gave the question to earlier, was your anadromous and catadromous species. And here's just a little bit of a demonstration of some of their ranges into the various drainages along the coast. Next slide, please. And some additional activities that this group does. We stock alewife, Atlantic salmon, and shad through transfers. This is one of our stocking vehicles. We recently were able to purchase a new vehicle as well last couple of years to kind of increase that capacity. In the lower left, these are examples of our salmon smolt traps that help to index out migrating salmon smolts as they leave the rivers. And then on the lower right are two people that are dangerously situated on a log with flowing water, but this is an example of some of the habitat restoration work that they're doing to try to improve runs in our freshwater rivers. Next slide, please. So some of the habitat challenges that we see, there's a tremendous amount of habitat that remains inaccessible to diurnous fish, and really these challenges include barriers, policy, and money. And again, this is where this group really excels at, is that they get local with our collaborators and work through some really difficult issues as they look to restore habitat. Next slide, please. Did want to finally mention our marine education group, the group is actually one position. Elaine Jones was our longtime education director. She retired in December after nearly 30 years of service to the state. And over that time, she built an incredible program that was largely financially independent of the department, in that she developed the Maine State Aquarium and the Burnt Island Lighthouse education programs as well. In 2000, unfortunately, with COVID restrictions, we did not open the Maine State Aquarium. And it's unlikely that we'll be able to open it this summer. In that I think everyone is in the same boat, as we just don't know where we're going to be. And so we are now in the process of beginning the search to replace our education director. And hopefully by 2022, we'll be back up where in the case of 2018, we had nearly 45,000 visitors come through the aquarium and be impacted directly by the education program. And it's really an excellent opportunity for to get the word out about what the department's doing around marine resources through this education group. So I believe that is the last slide.
Thank you, Carl. Is there any burning questions from members of the committee? If not, we'll continue right through to Bureau of Public Health. Hearing none.
Can I ask a question, please, Commissioner Kelleher?
Sure.
I'm very excited to hear about the advancement of the sea-run fisheries that you're talking about, the the diadromous fish population. It seems to me that there are so many private organizations. Are you really, so you're really thinking about this as a public-private partnership?
Yeah, Representative Bloom, thanks for that question. I think a lot of the work that we do is really a public-private partnership. You know, if you look at, you know, the kind of the the Keystone project, which was the Penobscot River, was certainly a public-private partnership with state, federal, local nonprofits and national nonprofits working together on the Penobscot River. Similarly here on the Kennebec, we have something in akin to that starting to happen now. But even the smaller rivers, down in Mousom, there is a big push for passage from members of the public in different organizations. So it is that type of work that allows us to leverage each other's strengths to try to accomplish issues around passage, whether it's a dam or a culvert, or just trying to find ways to even just leverage money to build a fishway on a historic dam. If you look at the Sheepshead River, the work that the Atlantic Salmon Federation did there at head tide to work with the town, maintain a structure, but provide passage up through the structure in a way that was meaningful. So that type of work is really critical to the success of what I hope will be a bureau again.
Well, congratulations on that. I hope it works out. Sounds good.
Thank you. So we'll, if you can advance to the Bureau of Public Health slide, Jeff, I'd like to introduce Cole Canowit. Cole has overseen this bureau for going on, I think, 9 years now. I think she was promoted about a year into my time as commissioner. She's really put a lot of changes in place here. I think she has streamlined the work that they're doing. We've expanded the work that we're doing because of a new issue as it pertains to biotoxins. So without further ado, I'll have Cole jump in and give you the overview. So Cole.
Thanks, Pat. It's nice to see the committee members, many of whom I know, some of whom I'm meeting for the first time. And Representative Crafts, it was nice to hear that you were delighted to be on this committee. As Commissioner Kelleher said, I manage the Bureau of Public Health, and that seems like a kind of an odd fit for a Department of Marine Resources, but it's because we do primarily shellfish sanitation. And what you see on the slide in front of you are the basic components of that shellfish sanitation program, plus our shellfish management program, which deals more with the biology of shellfish, as well as a few other species that get lumped into our group because of their relationship to, say, the intertidal or bivalve shellfish, things like periwinkles and marine worms. And then we also are responsible for the environmental permit review summaries that get put out for the entire department. So the staff member who coordinates those is in our bureau. Jeff, can you advance, please? The principal program in our bureau is the Growing Area Classification Program. And the reason that we have this is because bivalve shellfish are filter feeders. So, they're constantly filtering particles out of the water, and they don't distinguish between, say, toxic phytoplankton or harmful bacteria or viruses. And because of that, if shellfish are in polluted or contaminated waters, they can transfer those contaminants into people when they eat the animals. We also eat them either lightly cooked or raw, like most people eat oysters raw. And so there's no kill step with cooking often that would help prevent those diseases. So you have to make sure that the water that the shellfish are grown in is very clean, and that way you prevent illnesses. Go ahead. So the way we manage the risk, the first thing to point out is that if you wanted to have zero risk, you would not allow people to eat bivalve shellfish at all. There's always going to be a risk when you're eating undercooked or raw products. That's why there's a warning on every menu in restaurants about eating undercooked or raw products. But what we do is we're trying to manage that risk by following some specific program guidelines. And we're very, very successful at doing that in Maine, as are other states in the country that also subscribe to the National Shellfish Sanitation Program and the model ordinance, which governs how we implement these regulations. And in Maine, it's really nice because DMR is actually the sole authority for implementing the NSSP. So we have enforcement through Marine Patrol. The dealer inspection program is under my bureau, and the growing area classification. So it's all together within one department, and we tend to have less communication and process difficulties than other states when they have those programs broken out into, say, maybe the Department of Health or something like that. So it's really an advantage that we have here in Maine. Go ahead, Jeff. So the fundamentals of the National Shellfish Sanitation Program are the growing area classification, and that, like I said, establishes water quality standards so that we know the shellfish are grown in clean water. It establishes biotoxin limits, so we know that if shellfish are getting toxic, when we have to shut down harvest areas to prevent illnesses. And also establishes safe handling and trace back capability. So there's a big move afoot in a lot of food production chains now, like with greens, lettuce, say, where they're trying to track produce from the field to the consumer so that when there's an outbreak, they know exactly where it came from quickly. We've been doing that in shellfish for decades, and it does work. When somebody gets sick, you have tags on the shellfish and you can trace back to the growing area. Go ahead, Jeff. So this is just a little cartoon of the various factors that we include or we consider when we classify growing areas. So you can see, precipitation in the upper left-hand corner. When it rains, you're going to have rain pushing runoff into the rivers and estuaries, and that can cause pollution, from agriculture and manure piles, urban runoff with wastewater treatment plants. There's residential runoff, and if people have, say, failing septic systems, which we see frequently in Maine, you can get pollution that way. Nitrogen nutrients can cause algae blooms, and sometimes those can be toxic. Recreational use of land can also cause degraded water quality. So we're taking into account all of those things when we make classifications. Go ahead, Jeff. And what happens is when we take all of those things into account, we classify the waters, and you can see here on this map, this is an example of how we classify the Kennebec River. And in this case, the Kennebec River is all classified conditionally approved based on the flow of the river. A fifth of Maine's land mass is drained out through the mouth of the Kennebec River. And so when the flows of the river are high, it indicates there's been a lot of non-point source pollution and the water quality degrades. So that's the red areas that you see on the map are prohibited areas. They're probably associated with things like permitted overboard discharges that are still allowed to be in some circumstances, or really poor water quality. Go ahead, Jeff. Biotoxin monitoring, this is a really important program for Maine. We start, the commissioner spoke a little bit about partnering with private citizens. One of the strongest programs I think that we have in the department is our phytoplankton, our volunteer phytoplankton monitoring network. We have a number of, it's between 30 and 40 volunteers. They're highly trained. They receive a microscope with a video or camera attachment, and they take samples once a week, like the postal service, rain, snow, wind, whatever. They're down there taking their samples. And they read them under a microscope, and they notify the department if they see target cells, which means phytoplankton that we know can cause toxic blooms. And they alert us to whether those phytoplankton are there or not, and then we can initiate additional sampling steps. We have a 3,500-mile coastline in Maine, and it's very difficult to manage that resource without the help of these volunteers. And it's a really excellent program. We also do the same work at a staff level, but it obviously multiplies our effect by having these volunteers. We collect shellfish and test for paralytic shellfish poisoning, amnesic shellfish poisoning, and diuretic shellfish poisoning. Those are the three illnesses that can be caused by toxic phytoplankton that bloom or are found in Maine. When we see toxin in the shellfish, we close the contaminated areas, and then we have a criteria for reopening when we know it's safe. Generally, the season's March to October, but since 2016, we faced amnesic shellfish poisoning, which hadn't been toxic in the Gulf of Maine prior to 2016. And in 2016 and 2017, some of you may remember, we had recalls that were somewhat dramatic from a bivalve shellfish world perspective. And we have developed some additional management techniques to deal with that particular type of bloom it becomes toxic very quickly. So we wind up having to have a lot of precautionary closures, which is tough for the industry, but it avoids recalls. So we're still in the development phase of the best ways to manage that particular toxin, but it's pretty brand new and represents a significant challenge. Go ahead, Jeff. So we also run the Shellfish Dealer Certification Program, and this, everything I talked to up till now is talking about how we make sure the shellfish when they come out of the water are safe. But also you have to make sure that they stay safe until they reach the consumer. And so we have a team of inspectors who go to shellfish dealers. They make sure that they have, fundamental cleanliness standards like wash down walls, and, the tools that they're using to shuck shellfish with are clean, and basic conditions like that. We do over 500 inspections annually. And this is the group that also deals with illness investigations. We do get illness reports every year in Maine. Sometimes it's related to Vibrio or neurovirus or biotoxin. We trace all of them back and discover whether or not it had anything to do with the growing area or maybe post-harvest handling. And so that's what this Shellfish Dealer Certification Group does. Go ahead, Jeff. The Shellfish Management Program, so this is not directly related to the public health aspect of what we do. These are the folks who are dealing with shellfish biology, resource management, resource assessment. They also are the liaisons between the municipal management programs and the state. So in Maine, municipalities are allowed to manage their bivalve shellfish resources with the exception of mussels, as long as they develop a town ordinance. So the department works with those towns to approve the ordinance according to the laws and regulations that are established, and then approving things like license allocations, making sure the towns are adhering to 10% issuance to non-residents and certain price caps and things like that. We also assist towns in doing resource evaluations. We do applied research projects like collecting seed or setting seed for grow out. And these are the folks who are dealing with the other resources such as marine worms, periwinkles, whelks, and seaweed. Go ahead, Jeff. And as I mentioned, within our group, we have an individual who coordinates the environmental permit review process for the department. He coordinates all DMR comments, so he reaches out to the folks in the Sea Run Fisheries group and in marine science to find out if they have issues for a particular dredge, say, or another project, and coordinates those comments and submits them to whoever the licensing agency is, either the Department of Environmental Protection or Army Corps, whoever it happens to be. Go ahead. So I think that was the end of my piece.
Great, thank you, Cole. I think that's when you, as Cole said, when you think about these issues around public health, it's really about shellfish sanitation, but it links directly back to an individual's health. And because of the work that is done in her shop, we are very pleased to see very few, if any, illnesses associated with eating shellfish. You have to maintain.
Commissioner, excuse me, we have a question. Representative Thorne.
Yes, you sparked a question for me when you covered all that. What does anybody track the retail loss of shellfish or seafood in general that is thrown out annually?
Not to my, I'm not aware of anybody that would track anything like that, Representative. I know product that is sold, obviously, I'm sure there are times when it's not all sold after it leaves the dock, and there may be some waste. I do know through Cole's program, we do have times where we have to recall product for public safety, and Cole, maybe you could speak to that a little bit.
Yeah, in any of those formal processes like a recall, or if we embargo shellfish because we've deemed it unsafe, We do keep track of that process. Like in the recall, the dealers have to report back to us. They actually conduct the recall and reach out to all their customers because we don't have that information. And they tell them they have to send it back or destroy it. And then they report back to us. And the 2 recalls that we had in 16 and 17, we got 98 and 99% of the product back. So it was highly effective. And those systems are set up in advance so that when you need them, they're there, people know how to execute them, and they can be effective like that so that you ensure people don't get sick. So it was really, it was an unfortunate circumstance. We obviously don't want to see that happen, but when it does have to happen, it was really encouraging to see how effective it actually was at keeping people safe.
Thank you.
And Representative Thorne, just remember to take your hand down. We're all going to learn this, just like unmuting. Thank you. Okay, Commissioner, thanks.
Thank you, Representative. So this is the last slide, and love to open it up for questions on anything that you've heard today or have an issue that's kind of a burning issue that you'd like to discuss. Many of these, at least based on my understanding, Representative McCreight and Senator Miramont, is you'd probably like some specific briefings on a few of these topics, which the department will be happy to do. I'm just going to touch on these quickly, and some of them, touching on them quickly obviously doesn't do justice, but COVID-19 certainly has been an impact to the fishing industry. Some fisheries much more than others, but we're finding, the industries are finding their way through. CARES Act distribution of funds is happening now. There'll be a second round of CARES Act to help. But if you add up the total loss and what's coming from CARES Act, it's hard to say that it's easy to say that many people will not be made whole by these funds. Some people weren't impacted and didn't qualify, and that's a whole other story. But we can certainly do an update on CARES Act at some point if you'd like. The one thing that I do want to touch on, though, is what Carl Wilson mentioned, which is the department staff working remotely. Before this all started, I was anti-telecommuting. I believed you needed to be at your desk and you had to be engaging. I can tell you I was wrong, that's the only way you can be successful. We as an agency, the people within this agency working with the industry, found ways to get their work done. While it was not about 40 hours, it was not about 40 hours a week. It was about productivity, and we certainly maintained a very, very high level of productivity. Maybe more so, actually, because of the amount of work. You take the travel out, and you're interacting with people more frequently. So, very proud of the agency and the staff within the agency for overcoming some of those issues.
Excuse me again, Commissioner, we have another question. Representative Falkingham.
Representative, your screen went off, but you're still muted.
There he is.
Hi, I hit the wrong button. So last time I think that we had a discussion about the ring around the scallop and using it for a food product and the testing with paralytic shellfish poisoning, I think it was, and you guys had a test for that, and it had never got to the point where it was implemented to use it as a food product. I was just wondering if there's been any more work on that, so to add another food product.
Cole, I know I could talk at high level, but why don't you get into the detail on that? It's an important question, and there's an important public health component to that.
So scallops they pose a particular risk beyond other bivalve shellfish because they become toxic quickly when there is a bloom, but they also hold on to the toxin for a really long period of time, over a year sometimes. And then they take some compounds that are low toxicity when they take them into their bodies, and they actually transform them into more toxic compounds over time. so they can actually increase their toxicity without being exposed to additional blooms. So forever, the department and the state had decided the best way to manage that risk was to not allow whole or row-on scallops at all. And the wild fishery has to shuck at sea. That's why that rule exists. So they can't bring any of the other parts of a scallop to shore because the meat doesn't get any toxin in it at all. But what we've done in the last number of years is we've allowed aquaculturists where they have an established place where they're growing the shellfish so we can know the exposure history of those animals. We allow aquaculturists to participate voluntarily in a program where they have a memorandum of understanding with the department. And then if they want to sell whole or row-on scallops, they have to go through a very rigorous testing process where they establish a baseline of 3 samples showing that the scallops are below the levels of concern, and then test to maintain that information to make sure that they're not becoming more toxic. So there are aquaculturists in the state who are selling whole and row-on scallops to the consuming public and in a safe way. Does that answer your question?
I guess I'm not muted. That's a good answer. Good information to hear. Is there anything being explored out there for commercial draggers?
I don't know of a way that we could manage that risk because we wouldn't know where the scallops are coming from unless there was, say, a VMS, a vessel monitoring system incorporated into that regulation. I think the expense to implement something like that with vessel monitoring and intensive testing would probably exceed the value of them adding a product of whole or row-on scallops. It's something that we're willing to explore with the wild fishery, but we haven't really been approached because of those limitations.
Okay, that's good information. I guess it would, I guess anything going down that avenue would have to depend on the market value of the product and what it would be worth and how willing the industry would be to cooperate in that sort of management. So, okay, thanks.
Thanks, Representative. So I'm just going to touch on the other items I had on the screen, and maybe Jeff, if you could throw it back up there quickly, and then we'll just put it up for a second and then take it back down. There we go. So I'm just going to take a look at that list. These are some pretty big issues that we're dealing with right now. Climate change, offshore wind, whale regulations, lobster bait, the biotoxins, stock resiliency, diversification, entry, and working waterfront. And every one of those issues that I have listed underneath climate change are impacted by climate change. Working waterfronts with rising sea level, stock resiliency with shifting stocks and warming waters. Think northern shrimp. While northern shrimp was thought to be overfished, we have not fished for them in 4 years and the stock continues to decline. It's a direct impact of climate change and warming waters. Lobster bait issues, the fact that we're allowing the use of other types of baits from outside of the Gulf of Maine because of the need for having a safe and reliable source of bait. The whale regulations, which have been all encompassing for the last 2 years and are starting to near an end, are directly correlated to climate change and the feed associated with right whales. Offshore wind, obviously, the need for sustainable green power for a future. So, all of those things are being driven by that one big topic. And so we'll be happy to give in-depth briefings on any one of those or any other topics that might come to mind. Jeff, you can take the screen down now. So with that, I'll stop my rambling and would love to open it up if there's any questions from members of the committee for myself or any members of staff. Senator Rosen, I left, and I apologize for leaving you off when I was talking about the Penobscot, because I meant to say that the Penobscot was well represented from the headlands to the sea. So that's a very important thing, really, because of the importance that watershed plays here within our fisheries along the Maine coast.
I do see a question, Representative Hepler.
Yeah, this was sparked by something that Cole Canwit had talked about in terms of monitoring shellfish and whatnot, because I was really amazed and by the creativity with which some of the lobstermen and shellfish folks were able to adapt and sometimes sell from their homes, from their boats and whatnot. How were you able to inspect to what extent were you able to inspect that, and how did it go?
That's a great question. And actually for lobsters, people are allowed to sell their own catch. And I won't go any further than that because I don't know those laws very well. But with bivalve shellfish, they're not allowed to unless they are a certified shellfish dealer. So they did have to move their product through a certified shellfish dealer so that we knew it was safe and then sell it with a retail license. Or in the case of a lot of aquaculture companies, they are actually dealers themselves. So they could grow the product and then sell it under their certified dealer license. But that's a great question.
Yeah, Representative Hepler, beyond the shellfish piece, lobster harvesters can sell products live, in which you saw a lot of that happening. They can't process that product, cook that product without having the right licenses for processing the product. And then there are food safety laws associated with that. But groundfish certainly was another product, another thing that was sold up and down the coast, direct from boats as well. So.
Next is Representative Bloom.
Thank you. On the whale rules, I know that you've been dealing with this a lot, Commissioner, but can you just give us, I would like to request that I think we need a hearing, or we need a more in-depth briefing on that. And I would like to request that also. Is there anything that we can do as a committee related to that or to help you? And what is the timeline for decision making?
So the whale rules, the draft rules were just released by the agency a few weeks ago. We're in the process of doing kind of a data dive into the data that they use for some of their rationale with the rules. It's I believe March 1 is the deadline, but somebody on my staff can correct me if I'm wrong. Is that Megan's giving me the thumbs up on the March 1? I think potentially a letter from this committee once we have finalized what our comments are. I think potentially a letter from this committee will be important in the process, so you're on record in support of the lobster industry. But very happy to do a full briefing. I think between myself, Megan, Meredith, and Aaron Summers on the science side, would be happy to give you an update.
Thank you. I think that's a popular topic. And Representative Thorne.
Yes, I realize this is probably a hot button topic, but the farm raising of salmon and other, I believe maybe oysters were also something that was talked about as being, farm raised or control raised rather than out in the ocean. What other species are there, and where does that stand on salmon in Maine?
So there's two types of salmon aquaculture. One is the marine-based that we have ongoing now that has been in place for a few decades, where they're taking smolts of juvenile salmon and then putting them in pens, raising them then in a marine environment in nets until they're a marketable size, and then selling them to market. And that's being done by Cook Enterprises or Cook Industries, which is a Canadian-based company that has a large footprint here in Maine, pulling a lot of Maine folks to do that work. They also have a a processing facility for those fish down in Machiasport. There's also a growing interest in land-based aquaculture, and there are 2 facilities that are currently in the process of moving forward here in Maine, one in Bucksport and the other one in Belfast. Those are permitted through the Department of Marine Resources, as well as through the Department of Environmental Protection for the wastewater discharge side of the operation. So those are not up and running yet, but moving forward through the regulatory process. There is also interest in growing a fish called yellowfin, which is another saltwater species to be grown on land. And there is a company currently looking in the Jonesport area right now for expanding into that type of work. Land-based aquaculture in itself is nothing new. If you think of fish hatcheries, it's really a type of land-based aquaculture. And it's now moving in the direction of more of a commercial scale. But the regular marine-based, shoreline type approach to aquaculture, mussels, oysters, clams, seaweed is a growing part of the aquaculture industry, growing kelp in particular. So those are kind of the main focuses, if you will, from an aquaculture standpoint.
Thank you.
Do we have any other questions? Any other things that jump out as we're going to need more in-depth briefings? The department, as Senator Marymount said, the department's been incredibly willing to do whatever we need to hear about.
Yeah, and
what do we need to, what else do we need?
you tell me what you'd like for briefing, and we'll put some together. That's not a problem. Just for members of, just for you're aware, we have an open door policy here. If there's any, if you have questions, want to learn about a particular topic, don't hesitate to reach out to my office. Deidre Gilbert is the point person for the committee, but can pull together other folks to help answer any questions you might have. I see Senator Maximum has her hand up.
Yeah, hang on just a second. Commissioner, we're going to have a briefing around lobster license entry anyway. That's something that was like in early February, mid-February, something like that.
Yes, yep.
Based on a bill last time. Okay, a couple more questions. Senator Maxman.
Thank you. I would love to learn more about the Aquaventus project and the cable that's coming into Boothby. I've been hearing a lot from lobstermen and would love to hear the department's take on that whole situation.
Yeah, we'd be happy to talk about what our role is there, but the committee may want to hear from the university directly on that project as well. I know the university is planning to do a briefing with you, kind of a broad briefing, kind of talking about all the areas that they do touch, but I'm sure Jake Ward or others would be willing to participate in that as well.
Perfect, thank you.
And Representative Crafts.
Yes, thank you. I just wanted to draw attention to the Working Waterfronts conversation and would like to talk more about that and hear more about that, both historically, but also looking at the future and what development looks like along the coastline as things continue to change.
Yeah, be happy to pull together information on that, representatives. I think Working Waterfront in particular has really grown in interest in the last several years as threats to conversion continue to pop up. Boothbay Harbor and Portland in particular come to mind. The Land for Maine Future, which I currently chair, runs the Working Waterfront program, and then there's a broader kind of more national initiative around Working Waterfront as well. So, but we're happy to give some information to the committee on that.
And Representative Falkingham.
I would like to hear about ocean acidification and what we could do. What are some things we could do for mitigation? There was a bill last session that Representative Devon had. And I was in favor of that bill, but we ended up not moving forward with that bill because I understand there was some research being done on that and something coming forward. So I'd like to hear more about that.
We can certainly do that, Representative. I think there's a lot of people that are looking at ocean acidification issues, both locally at the university, national priorities around that as well. So happy to put some information together on that.
And Representative Bloom.
Yeah, just to add to that about ocean acidification and other issues related to climate change, you can look at the science and technical report of the Climate Council that has really great chapters just on ocean acidification, on sea level rise, on a whole bunch of different things. And I urge, if you have a specific interest, to take a look at that science and technical report. In addition, of course, to getting more of a rundown.
Yeah, and I think the request must have been from you, Representative, to have an update from the Marine Working Group from the Climate Council. So I know Heather Leslie will be, and along with Kathleen Layden, will be giving an update on that work, which will touch on some of that as well.
Absolutely, yep.
And just to add, Lydia has started, when she first got here, a Coastal Caucus, and also served on the Climate Council and is still involved. So she's a great resource around the pieces. Go ahead, Lydia.
Yeah, and I just want to say that we meet. We're trying to do lunch and learn presentations. The next lunch and learn presentation is on sea level rise part 2 on Thursday, where we're going to actually talk about specific case studies of what we're doing along the coast to shore up our shores. So that I would invite everyone to take a look at that. We are incredibly blessed with Pete Slavinsky, who's a marine geologist who's just fantastic. So anyway, yeah, and I'm happy to answer any questions anyone has on the Climate Council. I was very involved in its process, and I do urge you to take a look at the report. I hope everyone got one in the mail. You should have.
Great. I see our analyst is back because we're now at 12 o'clock, which is when we plan to end. So I guess I would ask any final, certainly we can, if things occur later, don't hesitate to put those ideas forward. They will, I promise. You'll have more things you said, oh, I wish I'd asked that.
Yes, I was just going to let everyone know that the Coastal and Marine Working Group and the university are coming a week from today for the 26th, and that on Thursday, Maine Lobstering Collaborative, Maine Aquaculture Association, Maine Lobstermen's Association, and the Maine Lobstering Union are on the agenda for presentation. So that's, you'll get an agenda soon, but that is who will be here on Thursday.
Great, thank you. So Senator Miramont, are we any final?
I don't know. I'm good. That was interesting. I mean, even though I've heard it before, it was really great. But I think it's good you've stressed with the members that how easy it is to get information from DMR, and I encourage them to, because they'll have special interests. But there's really so much going on I want you to know about. But other than that, that's great for today, and thank you very much, everyone.
Thanks, everybody. And we'll have Sherm's Representative Hutchins sound figured out for next time.
Yeah, it turns out all of IT is not in their office because one person has COVID, the rest are required to quarantine. So Senator Diamond, and we're all down here in his office trying to figure out how to get him on a Zoom meeting because there's no one to go to. So we'll figure it out. And thank you very much again. Everyone, see you Thursday at 9.
I do see one more hand.
Yeah.
Representative Thorne.
Really quick, so next week, Tuesday and Thursday, we're planning to get together like this?
This week, Thursday, next week, Tuesday.
Right, Tuesday, Thursday this week, and Tuesday, Thursday next week also?
Tuesday for sure.
Okay,
We're figuring out the schedule.
all right, and she had just said that that was, the lobster was set up for Thursday, right?
Right,
Okay.
Lynn?
Yes, so the lobster is this Thursday. Next Tuesday is the last day of orientation, which is the university and the Marine working group. But on next Thursday is the budget hearing with AFA. So you do have 2 days next week of committee activities, and you'll get more details later.
Great, planning purposes.
Absolutely.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Commissioner, and everybody from DMR. That was fantastic. Thank you.
Representative, do you want any budget briefings before AFA?
I do. That would be helpful.
Sure.
Could we do that on Tuesday next week?
Yep. We can do that. We can give the big picture overview on Tuesday, and so you don't have to listen to the long drawn out details going into the vote. But we can make sure you have all the full understanding of what the budget looks like.
Thank you. Fantastic.
Yeah, we already had a full time during that meeting. Where would we fit that, or just going to take something out? Were you part of that one?
I was just going to turn that to Lynn to solve.
Yes, Senator and Representative McCray, we have a meeting right now, the three of us, to talk about the calendar for next week. So perhaps we can move it there, and then I will get back to the full committee and the commissioner about when the DMR can come and talk about the budget to the committee. Does that sound like a plan?
Yes.
Okay. Great.
Sure. We just don't want to go. We have 2 more hands up. We have Representative Falkingham.
2 questions. First of all, can Leeds be added to that budget meeting?
Oh, well, the meeting at 12 right now, Representative Falkingham, I sent you an invitation by email.
Okay, I haven't seen it. Okay.
It's by team, so maybe we could ask our analyst to send it to you to make sure you have it.
Okay, I probably have. I just haven't.
And that's the chairs and leads process. If people aren't familiar with that, we have a lead, and Senator Maxman has been invited as well. Our chairs and leads.
My second question is the committee schedule going to get emailed to all the members of the committee, or do we have to? Okay, that's what I was wondering. Yep.
Yeah,
Okay.
like always, but
that
it's super important.
Yeah, and that's not, when it's going to be, but it hasn't been finalized yet, correct?
Right.
Okay, so we'll get an email today, presumably, about Thursday and Tuesday, and
Well, we should be able to get Thursday to you for sure. And yes, I'm seeing Lynn nodding. Thank you.
If I may just jump in.
Yep.
Excuse me, Representative. I just was going to let the full committee know the official calendar that Linda produces comes out, I believe, on Thursday or Friday. Thursday. I have an unofficial calendar that I will be sending out on Thursday as well. So by Thursday of every week, you will know what the next week holds. But I will make sure for this week that you get information today about Thursday.
Thank you. And our clerk, Linda, do you have?
Yes, I didn't get a chance to mention this to you and Senator Miramont earlier, but my cue to end the live stream is meeting adjourned.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
So last call. So we officially say meeting adjourned?
If you would, please.
Sounds good.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody.